Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and today we're going to do a game discussion. We're going to talk about this game right here, Killzone Shadowfall for the PS4. One of the launch titles for the PS4, and one of the games that, if it wasn't a launch title, I probably wouldn't have picked it up, and that might have been to my own detriment, because I did have a lot of fun with this until a certain point in the game, and then once I figured out what I was supposed to do, I was fine and I beat it really fast. We'll talk about that when we get into the gameplay. But yeah, this is a first-person shooter, a genre that I don't pick up very many games in that genre. I do enjoy the first-person shooter genre, but I have to have specific things in it. I want it to be in a futuristic setting. I don't necessarily like playing the quote-unquote modern war shooters. If I want to do that, I'd go join the army. But I can't go to like these huge vistas, these big, massive science fiction bases, on spaceships and things like that. And that's kind of what I want in a first-person shooter. It's just the set and setting. That's, I'm not a really big big war person. I don't really care for war, so to see it kind of depicted in a more realistic way, it doesn't really do anything for me. But firing like laser guns and things like that, I'm all for that. I know it's kind of a shitty answer, but there you go. So anyway, pick this up because it is one of the few launch titles that looked enticing. Launches for consoles are always pretty terrible, and the PS4 launch is, aside from the stuff that's on like PSN, the actual physical games you can buy aren't that great. A lot of sports titles, stuff like that. So Killzone really kind of stuck out from the rest of them. And I played a little bit of this at my friend's house, and really just, I don't know, for some reason I wanted to get this game. And my last experience with the Killzone series was Killzone 1 on the PS2. So if that tells you anything, I'm really not steeped in the series lore. I kind of want to get the Killzone trilogy pack for the PS3 now, just to go back and replay those games and kind of see how we got here, because this, going from Killzone 1 to this, you're like, what the fuck is going on? Apparently this takes place after a major victory for the Vulcans, and Helgen is destroyed. Spoiler alert for me, if I play the other two Killzone games, spoiler alert, Helgen gets destroyed. And basically the Helghast are refugees on the planet Vectra. And as this kind of goes historically, it does not go very well. There's a lot of tensions, and eventually fighting breaks out once again between the Helghast and the Vulcans. Can't they ever just be friends? Apparently not. It's kind of weird how, in a lot of ways, in this game, when you go to like New Helghast, which is on basically Vectra City and Helghast, the New Helghast are separated by a wall, i.e. the Berlin Wall, sort of East Berlin versus West Berlin. And it's kind of crazy how it kind of does mirror that historical precedent in a lot of ways. The western side of Berlin and West Germany was a lot more prosperous, quote unquote, and then sort of the eastern side had the Soviet Union kind of tightening the screws on the Germans because they didn't really like the Germans too well after, World War II. It makes sense. So, Vectra City, very beautiful, pristine. New Helghast. The word slums is not even an accurate word. It's basically kind of hell on earth. Yeah, it was a really interesting storyline to kind of, because you play as a soldier from New Vectra, one of the Shadow Marshals, and you don't really often feel like a good guy. It's kind of, you feel like in this very, very weird gray to dark gray area, like, what I'm doing really good? Am I really doing something good. So, you know, to evoke that kind of feeling in me, when I didn't know the storyline up until that point, was really awesome. It really, you know, kind of pulled that feeling out of me. And then where the story goes is, of course, leading into another Killzone game eventually. So we'll see where the series goes from here. I need to go back and play Killzone 2 and Killzone 3. But from the gameplay perspective, kind of, I mean, it's a first-person shooter, so I'm not going to get, like, super crazy about it. I'm not going to go really into detail with the things, because I'm an RPG guy. You know, I can talk to you about RPG battle systems. But when it comes to the nuances of first-person shooters, they tend to all kind of feel somewhat the same. And that's just, you know, me not being very versed in the genre. But what it was, I really enjoyed it. I like the tactical echo that you have in the game. It was really nice to just sort of, you know, it kind of felt like, you know, you really were a lone person stuck on the wrong side of the battle lines, and use that tactical echo, and you see all these enemies light up around you, and you're like, shit, how do I get out of here? Really enjoyed that. Really liked the owl, which is a sort of drone that you control with the touchpad on the PS4 controller. There's 4 directions that you can sort of assign. Well, they're already assigned, but there's 4 directions that you can swipe on the directional pad to give your owl commands. And the owl is like this little mechanical drone that flies around with you. One is just attack enemies, and it'll go out there and fire its little minigun at them. The other is to shock enemies, which will disable shields. Comes very handy later in the game. One is a zip line, which doesn't really come into play all that much. And to be honest with you, I can't even remember what the down swipe was. I don't know if it, well, hold on, maybe I can tell you. 21. What's 21? Stun mode. Oh, shield mode. I never used that at all. Shit. I guess that would have got me out of some big, you know, firefights there if I knew that I had a shield. Oh, man. But anyway, so you can give your owl all these different commands. After you use each of the commands, there's a little bit of a refresh rate. If you send it out to attack and it gets damaged, it has to have a refresh rate before you can pull it back out again. Also, if you take too much damage and you can't use one of your adrenaline packs to heal yourself, once you're quote-unquote dead or down, you can press L1 to have your owl administer the adrenaline pack. But if it's damaged or already out doing something or too far away, it can't do that. So there's a real kind of risk-reward using the owl, because you kind of want to keep it close in case you do go down. But other than that, typical first-person shooter stuff, kind of down the sights, which I'm not a big fan of down the sights shooters. I know that's like all the rage now. I am kind of more of a fan of the arcadey Halo style, even though, you know, Halo's probably going to kind of go in that direction eventually. But yeah, it's something I gotta get used to, the down the sights first-person shooters, because if you kind of run and gun, you're going to miss enemies all the time. You really have to kind of look down those sights and line up your shots, which a lot of people like, but when you're stuck in a big group of enemies, it's kind of hard to focus on one enemy at a time with that down the sight stuff. But yeah, you just move through the stages. Really interesting level designs, really good places for firefights. The thing with the game is, I had a lot of fun with this game until the last mission. And the last mission throws you into this sort of stealth mode. And the game does nothing to sort of train you on this up until this point. It just throws you into this stealth mode and says, well, finish the mission. The problem is you have to avoid, you're in a civilian area, and you have to avoid soldiers and civilians. Now, soldiers will show up on your tactical echo. Civilians will not. So you'll be moving through the bushes with your cloak on, and all of a sudden, a civilian that you didn't even know was there because they're not on your tactical echo will notice the bushes moving and call the guards. And it's just like, for the long time, it's like, if you get spotted by, and there's tons of these people around, if you get spotted by anyone, you have to restart. Because they're just going to swarm you and you're going to die. If you kill anybody, you have this silenced pistol, but you barely use it. If you kill anybody, you might as well restart, because they're just going to start swarming you and locking things down. It's really frustrating until you figure out, basically through trial and error, or look up a wiki, what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. Because you have 3 objectives, and the 3rd objective is getting a hold of a sniper rifle that is basically pretty well guarded, and it's really hard to sort of distract the guards. Basically, what it boiled down to was, I just shot the guard that was looking after it, quickly went in, grabbed it, and booked it to the next spot where I was supposed to be, which I luckily found, because I kind of just inadvertently ducked in there, and I was like, oh, now I know what that place is for, because I found it earlier in the game, and I was like, oh, what do I need this for? And I ducked in there, and I was like, aha! And I just ran up, and the game finished. So, the stealth mission is really annoying, because it never really tells you what the rules of the stealth is. It's just like, avoid everybody, and you try to avoid people, and then another person notices you. One time I came out of a bush, and there was just a guard standing way down, really far away. I didn't know how he could see me at all. And he's just like, hey, what are you doing there? And it's like, oh, crap. And I bet you I restarted that stage, like, I almost rage quitted. Because I restarted that stage like 20 times. Ugh. But I finally just said, you know, I can't let that stand. Gotta persevere. So I finished it, and, yeah. The graphics. You know, the PS4 graphics, I think a lot of people... I don't know, I have Tomb Raider, the Definitive Edition, and I'm going to be throwing that in sometime this weekend. I think people... It's one of those things where people expect way too much when the console first comes out. Because go back and look at, like, Perfect Dark Zero and, you know, the other launch games for the, you know, the previous generation. And you're like, oh, these kind of look like crap, you know? This looks great, but at the same time, it doesn't blow you away. It doesn't have that... in 3 or 4 years, these systems are going to blow us friggin' away. Really, right now, it's a lot of really subtle things, like lighting, shadows, particle effects, the draw distances, and things like that. When they really start pumping these systems for everything they're worth, we're going to be really amazed. But for right now, Killzone kind of looked pretty plasticky, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I really noticed it a lot with the Unreal Engine. Is it the Unreal Engine? I think it's the Unreal Engine. How everything is very shiny and plasticky, and like light just reflects off people's faces in a very unnatural way. And from looking into videos on Tomb Raider talking about how they do the multi-level skin reflections and things like that, I think eventually the lighting's going to get like really, really spot on. But right now, everything just kind of has a plasticky, overly greased look. And I don't know. I mean, some people are going to be like, oh, that's fine. But for me, it was kind of, you know, artificial. But it's a game. Who cares? But anyway, yeah, the graphics are really good looking. I was really in awe of a lot of the vistas that you get to experience in this. As far as the music and the audio goes, I never really noticed the music all that much. Definitely not like the Halo scores or anything like that. Kind of typical, you know, percussion, drum beats, things like that when you get into firefights and stuff, but nothing really is memorable about the music. The audio, however, is really awesome, especially with the audio logs, because the PS4 controller has a little speaker on it, and that's where the audio logs come out of. So it's not playing over your TV, it's playing on your controller. And I don't know, for some reason, I found that to be really awesome. And in some respects, especially with one audio log, it was incredibly creepy. Yeah, just really creepy to sort of hear what was going on. And then you see like the aftermath of it on the screen, and it was really well done. I really enjoyed that part. But yeah. Oh, the other thing, the PS4 controller for first-person shooters. I think the PS4 controller is perfect. I love that controller. The sticks on the PS3 felt really loose when you're aiming, and I always had to adjust the sensitivity. But for the PS4, man, it just feels spot on. I love how the triggers kind of, flip out. Really makes things a lot better. And the way the controller just fits in your hand, I love that controller for this game. So it's going to be great to see what it's like in the other games as well. But as far as Killzone goes, I really had a good time with it. I almost rage quitted on the last stage, but I stuck with it. And yeah, I kind of want to see what the other games in the series have to offer. This didn't feel as heavy as Killzone 1 did. Killzone 1, the moving around had a lot of weight to it. But I remember playing Killzone 1 and really enjoying it because I really liked the Hellgast and how they would talk and the look of their masks and things. And that kind of came back with this. So I probably will pick up the trilogy pack for the PS3 sometime. But yeah, if you have a PS4, you probably have this because it's one of the few really kind of, I don't want to say standout, but it's like when you see it on the wall, you're like, oh, I want to give that a shot of the launch titles. But yeah, had a good time with it. I don't know if I'll ever go back to it and try to beat it on harder difficulty levels to get more trophies. I'm not really a trophy person. I don't really care. But anyway, that is Killzone Shadowfall for the PS4. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.